Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sasquatch Watch Radio with your hosts, Billy Willard and the Blog Squatcher. Strap in, hold on tight, get ready, because it is about to go down.
Everyone, tonight is another night, another episode of Sasquatch Watch Radio. Today is Monday, November 24th, 2008. We will have a wonderful guest on the line with us tonight. We've got Mr. Bill Brann from New York, the co-author of Monsters of the Northwoods, will be on with us tonight. Before we bring Bill on the line, we will have Mr. D.B. Donlan. First of all, we want to say hello, D.B.
Hey, what's up, Billy?
Just a little bit of rain, clouds, and cold. That's about it.
Yeah, that's what we all have right now.
I know you're enjoying it.
You know, love it.
Everybody.
Yeah, of course.
So, D.B., I understand that you might have a little bit of news for us.
Yeah, this might get some of us worked up here. The Scientific American is a mainstream.
Oh, DB, we lost you, buddy. Check your connection. I hope you can hear me. DB, we lost your voice. I don't know if he's looking at the chat or not. I think he has a bad connection there. Hopefully he'll see the message I just left him. All right, folks. While we're waiting on DB to get his connection working, he might have to call back in or something. We will go ahead and I don't know if he's seen it or not. I bet he's still talking. I bet he's giving us the news and we can't hear it. He's probably still talking. All right. Well, DB, we'll figure this out. But for now, Bill Brann, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
Actually, I think we just got him back. Is that you, DB?
Yeah. I mean, okay. I saw my my Skype turn off, so I knew what happened. I don't know why it happened, but the thing just went bloop, turned off. So I called right back in immediately, but I guess it doesn't have a message come up to tell you.
Yeah, it took it a few minutes for me to see it. So go ahead.
we can save that news for next time.
Okay.
Because it'll make us just as angry next week as it would this week. it'll keep. But now we can go on to Bill, and because I know we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about.
All right, Bill, how are you doing tonight?
Very good, Bill. Thank you.
I understand you're getting the same weather we are, I guess.
Yeah, it's been raining here for about an hour now, and thank God it's not snow, but the Adirondacks is scheduled anywhere from 3 to 6 later on this evening, so I'm not looking forward to that.
Well, I guess, snow is it a good time to go out and look for prints up there?
Well, a lot of people do, but I'm not one of them. I'm not. The Adirondacks is going to be a pretty lonely place back in there. It's not only treacherous, in some areas, but slippery, and if you get caught back in there in heavy snow, I mean, everything starts looking the same. It makes it difficult to get out. So we're not just talking about the little patch of woods at the end of the street. We're talking 6 million acres. So.
Oh, I tell you what, you ain't got to tell me. I went up there for the Nezra expedition. I think it was in 2005, and they took me back into an area. The last house I saw was like several miles, and then we drive up this what's supposed to be a road. It's really a snowmobile trail. And we get back in there, and I'm telling you what, you don't hear planes flying over, you don't hear any traffic, you don't hear nothing but nature, and that's it.
That's it. That's the Adirondacks. In fact, we were talking a few moments ago about new sightings. There was a group of people from Utica that came to the Lake George region there for a vacation this past August. And one of the things they wanted to do is go hiking in the Adirondacks, and they chose a spot called Loon Lake. Nearest town would be Chestertown. It's pretty far back up in. And they were hiking along, a group of 6, 3 men, 3 women. And they're all in the ages of early 20s, mid-20s. And somewhere, when the hiking, one of them had to go relieve himself. So the other 5 went on a short distance, and he went in the woods maybe 10 feet, he says, and he heard a deep snort. Well, he expected, there's a deer nearby, and, well, he didn't see a deer, but this tremendous vocalization. He says it almost made your blood curl. And, of course, those that went on just ahead of him there, they could hear that vocalization. But what they didn't hear, as he described later, is this thing ran off on 2 legs. And he comes out pretty badly shaken, according to the group. And that pretty much ruined their hiking trip for the rest of the day. They came back to Lake George, they said, and went swimming instead. So the Adirondacks is one of these places where I guess most anything can happen. And they got this prize of their lifetime. So that was quite interesting, I thought. Yeah. And then recently, it was October 30th, if I recall correctly, there was an article printed in one of the local small papers called the Chronicle. The wildlife editor occasionally will have a story of this nature there, where he was talking about one of the Adirondack fishing guides. His name was Jack. And Jack has casted a number of casts over the years of different footprints of Sasquatch, or was what he believes, ranging anywhere from 14 to 18 inches. And this past summer, according to the article, he glimpsed this creature. Now, it's really back in one of the more remote areas of the Adirondacks. It's what they call North Lake Regent. And this is near what they call the Black Wild Forest. This is an area that you can go back and you would get lost, and no one probably would find you ever, So these are some of the areas that you can get back into that's deeply remote. Truly, I don't think a person in some cases has set foot in 200 years easy.
All right.
So
I tell you, those areas up there, man, are just amazing. They really are.
Yes, they are.
I was shocked when I went up there. I mean, just the rocks. I mean, I took my truck in a place I should have never took it. I mean, quite honestly. I mean, it was rather scary, and we were stressed out because we were afraid we were going to puncture an oil pan or something, and I should have never took that truck in there. I don't know how you get in some of them places.
Well, most of the time you have to hike in.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, once you get off on any kind of a fire road or anything like that, it's hiking. You're going to have to hike.
Oh, I wish I would have, I mean, we probably would have got in faster, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm sure you could have. Although I've seen times where we come across some of these mountain roads that, oh my God, it'll be a mile of nothing but mud right up to the axles, almost probably up to the fender in some cases. Right. If you don't have 4-wheel drive with a winch, you'll be stuck there. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So sometimes you have to question your own sanity sometime in this here.
Yeah. Well, we've got a caller already.
Okay.
Let me pull this
I bet
call
you I can tell you who that is.
Caller from the 612 area code. You're on the air with Sasquatch Watch Radio and guest Bill Brann.
Yes, Billy, this is Ed Welch. I've been doing research up here in Minnesota.
Hey,
okay.
Ed, how you doing?
How you doing?
Great. It's great to hear you when you called me when I was in the field that one day.
Oh, yeah, I do remember. I do remember who you are now, Ed. You're the fella who's been going up in the woods up there in Minnesota. I tell you what, guys, this guy has been spending some time out in the field and taking his video camera out there, and I tell you what, he's going at it. That's for sure.
I guess I've been labeled sort of as a researcher who likes to get his hands dirty because I crawl through my hands and knees if I have to get into these areas.
Yes, you have.
But I've been anxious to really talk about what that sighting I had October 9th, and it's been hard to talk to people in general about it. I mean, my friends, because once they look at you a certain way when you said, "Yeah, I saw a Bigfoot," and you just want to tell everybody in the world what you're seeing because it took me 3 days to get over that sighting. I was in shock and fear for almost 3 days.
Oh, I tell you what, Ed. Go ahead, Bill.
Do you know Bill? Mike Quast. Do you know him? He's in Minnesota.
I think
or was in there.
I've been trying to get up to.
He's lived in that area for quite a while. I haven't had any contact with him in a period of time, but he used to put out a newsletter I thought was quite interesting. And he had a number of different sightings over many years in different parts of Minnesota. And there was another older gentleman who used to write me. John Green knew who he was as well. I can't come up with his name right this moment. I'm sure he's passed on, but he has had some number of sightings on his property as well. So Minnesota doesn't surprise me as being an area where you're going to find this creature.
Yes, and especially after what I saw that day, I just never thought I would ever see one in my lifetime. I'd go out there and just research and find the trace evidence, but to actually see this creature, I can't describe it because it's like your heart falls into your stomach and you go into a severe panic mode. And I tried to run after the thing to film it, and ended up just stopping dead because it seemed to cause a severe panic attack. I just had to leave the area. I just felt like my life was in danger. Right. But what I saw was what they seen in that area years ago, according to BFRO's database. It was an albino-colored adult Bigfoot.
Wow! And
it was.
How tall
I'm sorry,
was
go ahead.
it? How tall
it had to have been over 7 feet tall because it was over 40 yards away. And when I heard this thing make a noise, and I looked up over the logs I was trying to climb over, I saw the back of the head and the shoulders areas in the back, and it seemed to be albino or whitish color, and that's what somebody had seen in that area a long time ago. But what was weird, it was running so freakishly fast, I couldn't describe it. It's just, how could something run this fast? The muscles seemed to even ripple on the back of his back. I could actually see the muscles sort of have like a ripple effect, or I could see them moving.
Right.
And I wish I could have had this on tape. This would have been a good clip.
Right.
Yeah, but that's one of the things people talk about, the speed of this thing can move. Most people, seem to think being so large it would not be able to move this fast, but it's very agile and it can move it extremely fast. Some of the reports I've gotten over the years, I'm really amazed. When I first got some of these, I said, well, no, they can't possibly be. But the way they talk, they can cover a great deal of ground in just a short span of time.
That's amazing.
You want to hear some of the numbers that I've seen from unpublished reports? I've seen it clocked at 35 miles an hour. I've seen it clocked at 45 miles an hour. And I've seen a lady who swears it was 55 miles an hour.
Yes, I remember there was an article one time printed out in Oregon there where it was along a superhighway and somebody was cruising. There was getting to be a traffic jam, as I recall, but their speed was somewhere between 35 and 40 miles an hour, and this thing was off to the side of the road pacing them.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing.
Well, I'm definitely finding out. Yes.
Is there any way I can get, because I know that you have enough information to fill up a 1-hour show. Is there any way we can get you on the show live one day?
Yes, I'd be honored because I got all this from the sighting and all my videos I've been posting on my YouTube page. I definitely got evidence that this creature is up there. How many, I don't know, but I got the trace evidence. I got the arch stick phenomenon that's becoming so prevalent up there. I don't know why they're bending these trees over like that, but.
Right. Well, I tell you what, Ed, I'm going to send you an email because I've got your email address here. I'm going to send you an email, and then I'll give you the next available date that we got for a show, and we'll get you on. We would love to hear all about it.
That'd be great, because I just returned from Stacy, Minnesota again. I did some research in a remote area up there, and I'm finding the fantastic trace evidence that's connected to this thing. And it's out there, and I got the videos in there. And it's just, if somebody could really see these things, they know that something is creating these stick phenomena with an intelligence of some kind. They're not natural phenomena.
Well, Ed, you're doing the right thing there. You're actually, you're documenting, this is what scientists need. They got to have some kind of a documentation about this rather than a bunch of stories like I just told a story. They're a dime a dozen, but you got to have documentation to back up what you're saying, and you got it apparently.
Yeah, because I think I have all the time in the world. I'm retired, so I can go in the field twice a week if I have to, and I don't go on these trails where people can listen to their MP3 players. I go to remote areas and I just dive head first and try to penetrate them as deep as I can. And I think maybe that's the reason why I'm finding a lot of this stuff, because people don't get out in these areas and are too remote.
Right. Well, we'll definitely have you on the show, Ed. So I'll be sending you an email. Expect to see that, if not today, tomorrow, and we'll get you a date and get you on here.
Sounds great. Just let me know. I'm retired at all the time in the world, so I'm kind of going over my research data right now on YouTube. So
all right.
I appreciate you taking my call like this.
Oh, no problem, Ed. Thanks for calling.
Thanks for calling, Ed.
Okay, and I hope to talk to you guys later.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
We got I know Bill knows who this is.
Yeah.
Billy Green.
Take a guess. Who do you think I'm getting ready to bring on here, Bill?
Billy Green.
Let's find out.
Okay.
Who do we got on the line here with us?
How y'all doing?
Bill Brann knew who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must be.
How you doing,
psyched,
Billy?
Bill?
A little bit.
It's cold in Connecticut, and a little damp. I went out today for a little while to look around, certain river areas, and didn't find anything. But it didn't surprise me. But I'm sure, once spring comes and stuff, maybe stuff will start turning up. I'm sure you're having the same kind of problem up in upstate New York now.
Well, right now it's raining. I just told Bill it's raining. But actually in the spring there, when things start to thaw and the ground is completely saturated, that's the best time I found for us to find tracks because the area is muddier. This area up through here is so much clay and so much debris in the ground, it's difficult to find tracks. So when it's muddy, wet, this is really working to our advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So are you planning on writing another book about Bigfoot or doing another documentary about Bigfoot?
Just gathering material right now, Bill. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet.
Yeah.
All right.
You have a good evening, Bill.
And, okay. Keep in touch.
Thanks a lot, Bill.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, real quick before I forget it, Bill, there's a fellow in the chat room by the name of Jordan Warner that wanted me to apologize to you for him not being able to make it to Hudson Falls for a documentary he was doing.
Oh, okay.
And he said that he apologizes, but he just couldn't. He didn't make it. So.
Yeah, he had a little mix-up there in our communication. That's what it was.
Yeah. So he's apologizing for that.
Yeah, he sent me an email.
Okay. Very good.
We're covered.
DB, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Except we know that Bill's still got stuff to talk about that he hasn't even started talking about yet. So we
I
get to
know.
that.
Bill's got a plan. You know what? But because I know we have some people live on the air who usually don't get in the chat, so let me give out the phone number in case anyone out there has a question for Bill. The phone number is 347-237-5070. Again, it's 347-237-5070. All right, Bill. I know you got some stories for us.
Well, I don't know. It's one of these incidents that happened at a place called Jade Pond a few years back. There, a couple of fishermen, were canoeing along, and they claimed at the lower end of the lake, it's kind of a sandy area because I fished this area many times. They said they spotted a Sasquatch there. Well, I fished that area for many years and been camped there, I don't know, probably off and on for the last 20 years. And I never had an encounter like that. Probably the most exciting thing that happened in my life while I was there is a friend of mine I used to go fishing with by the name of Dick Newman, passed on now. It was an island out in the middle of the lake. We called it Chimley Island. There was a camp many years ago, back in the late 30s, early 40s, that burnt. And the only remaining thing is the chimney standing. And that's an ideal campsite because you got water all the way around you. The water is deep, probably 50, 60 feet in that area. And excellent trawl fishing. And it's just the ideal spot you want to camp on. Well, this one time we got there, somebody else was already on the island. So Dick spittered and sputtered about that. But we went down the far end of the lake, and, well, that morning we started early. We started around about 6:30, 6:45. As we were rounding what we call Chimney Island there was this young girl walking down to the lake in short shorts, topless.
Oh.
She's coming down to the lake to wash up. Well, she's as much surprised to see us as we were to see her. So the only thing we could do is look, smile, and say, "Good morning."
I All right, I don't think Bill was Sasquatch hunting that morning.
No. But they're never around when I'm out there fishing. I don't know how these guys get so lucky, but there has been stories emanating out of these particular parts of that mountain regions for a very long period of time, although I never, had any luck there at all. Over towards Chimney Mountain, very deep in the Adirondacks, there's been footprints found. As you go towards Bullhead Mountain, there's been footprints found there, but there's also these vocalization reports, and you and I were talking, Bill, a couple of weeks ago about the importance of good vocalization, reports coming in. The one you were telling me about, it was so powerful that actually the ground would vibrate.
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Remember us talking about that?
Yes.
So, I really put a lot of faith in some of these vocalization reports. I feel they're probably as solid as a good sighting report. Many times in a sighting report, the witness doesn't see everything, but he's sure got this vocalization etched in his mind forever there. It just about rattles him right out of his shoes.
Yeah.
So I think that is a very good plus, and I think we have to stay focused on what we're doing and bring the scientific community in more. But like I was just telling Ed, documentation is probably the most important thing we got going for us. Stories like, I could tell you off and on all evening long, or a dime a dozen. At the end, what have we got? We just got stories, but we needed some kind of proof. And there's recently as recently as last week, a couple came down to visit one of our members there. Excuse me. And they were telling on their property that they had vocalizations. There was something standing, but they could not see it. But they knew it was standing just off a distance from them, just in the darkness. Flashed a light out there. Apparently the light was not strong enough to illuminate what they were looking for. But one of the questions they asked one of our researchers, excuse me, one of our researchers there, he was asked there, what are you going to do when you find it? And he says, well, we're going to try to document it to prove the thing exists. He said, oh, no, I don't want anybody to know about it. Well, with an attitude like that, it makes the situation become that much harder because you want to please the witness here and get onto his property and check it out. But the same token there, he doesn't want the world to know about it. So it's kind of a dilemma that we face. But this is not uncommon. A lot of people will shy away and say, no, I don't want to go any further with this. So you got any comments on that?
I'll tell you what, I remember me and you talking about that encounter, talking about the vocalization.
Right.
Did I tell you, because I thought about what you had told me when I was talking to another fellow down here in Virginia that just recently joined my group, and I can't remember if I told you about him, the guy who did the investigation on the Mount Vernon monster in Virginia.
I don't believe you finished it. If you did, tell me.
Yeah. Well, I thought about mine in your discussion, when you told me about that story.
Mm-hmm.
This particular guy that just joined my group, his name is Charlie. And he was one of the police officers who was investigating the Mount Vernon monster. If anybody wants to know what that is, if you go over to Bigfoot Encounters, Bobby Short's site, and type in Mount Vernon monster, it'll pull it up. She's got a newspaper article in there. It was an encounter that happened back in the late 70s here in Virginia. And what you said, Bill, reminded me of what this guy told me. He was on the site, and they were out there investigating because all the neighbors over there had been having this problem with something vocalizing out in the woods, out behind their homes, and it was irritating the neighbors. The people were just getting, they were like, I don't know what this is, it's making a lot of noise, blah blah blah. So he's one of the guys that goes out there. They sent a SWAT team out there. And they go through the woods. They've got night vision. They've got everything, trying to find out what this thing is so that they can get whatever they got to do with it. And they don't find anything. They all come out of the woods. And he said they were all putting their equipment back in the vans. And he said as they were doing that, because they were going to go get some dinner, he said the thing vocalized. So he ran back over to the edge of the woods to see if he could see anything, and he said while he was standing at the edge of the woods, facing the woods, the thing vocalized again, and he said when it did, he said not only did he hear it, he felt it in his chest.
Amazing.
It actually it vibrated. He says he'll never forget that. He said he knows it wasn't a bear. He knows it wasn't a peacock, as some people were claiming. He says a peacock could not cause that type of, reverberation in his chest. He says he'll always remember that. And I thought about your story, when we had talked, when he was telling that story. So.
Well, Wilfred Goslin, he was chief of police there in Whitehall many years ago, back in '76. And I had a chance to interview him a number of different times. And, he was low-key. Probably his voice wasn't much louder than mine right now when he's telling about some incidents that he was familiar with. But he got talking about his brother Russell, who hunted an area just off an Abear Road. And his brother was back in there, and the vocalization came out through. He said, actually, I could hear it to the side of the road where I was at. But he says, my brother Russell come out of there as white as a ghost, and he says he refused to hunt that area ever again. And he was a guy that was, had no fear about being in the woods at all. But whatever it was, scared the living Jesus out of him. Put the dance of the seven devils in him, or whatever you want to, term it. But some of these vocalization reports, I put a lot of faith into them because the power in which they're delivered, for the period of time in which they're delivered. So when Wilfred had told me that, I was gone back maybe, I guess it was probably a week later, and I asked him to retell that story, and I put it on tape, and then I played a piece of tape for him. What it was the vocalizations that it was recorded in the Sierra Mountains some years ago there by, Barry. And it was a high-pitched scream. It kept building. Right. And all of a sudden, his voice got so excited, you could see he was really getting into it. He said, yeah, that was it. But louder, much stronger than that. But, yeah, that's it, So he really got into it. So what I have done, what I tried to do in later years is try to have 3 or 4 different vocalizations. I know one is the one I'm sure of is the one that's recorded in the Sierra Mountains many years ago. But I would have a bunch of other vocalizations that I feel that is not the real deal, and I would play these for people and ask them to give me an opinion. Which one is more like what you heard? And 9 times out of 10, it'd be the one there that Alan Berry recorded. So that's a pretty good plus right there. And of course, we know how that's been tested, the vowel sounds and everything. So. It's got a lot of credibility, so that's what people seem to pick more than any other as far as the vocalization goes. Right. But it's much more powerful, more so than what I could probably produce on a tape recorder.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some interesting sounds out there. I haven't been fortunate enough to get that quote unquote classic Bigfoot scream. I don't know. They seem to be quiet over here on the East Coast. I don't know what it is, but. West Coast.
They don't want to get shot.
That's the truth.
Yeah,
they figured it out. If I yell, they come looking for me. Hey,
Bill, I don't know if Bill's ever heard, DB, your version of,
That's what I was just going to talk about.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Go ahead.
You were saying that witnesses confirm the Sierra Sounds stuff that you play for them. Well, I went out. It's been. I guess almost 2 years now, almost 2 years ago, in April I guess it was 2007, in East Central Ohio. So this is very far away from the Sierras. And I started hearing these sounds. Now, I had my recorder out and I was recording it, but when I heard the sounds, I turned to the guy next to me and I said, someone is blasting the Sierra Sounds at us. Because it sounded so much like the Sierra Sounds. I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe that we would have had something happen like that. Because, to be perfectly frank, I hadn't believed in the Sierra Sounds because of the story, and then the way they packaged it and sold it made me, much less.
Well, the chatter. The chatter. I have that recorded too, and most people said no, it was nothing like that, But then when you play the high-pitched screams, where it just bellowed out, and just sounded like it was bugulating, across a mountain range for a long period of time, and building in intensity, that would seem to be where the direction they were going with, were they trying to relate to the sound that they heard. Yeah, I can remember last winter, I think it was around December, I probably got one of my forms here in front of me, but anyways, brother and sister, these are well-educated people, middle-aged. They were up in the Fort Ann area, and they were just kind of enjoying, the winter, looking in the woods. They're not hiking or they're not, cross-country skiing or anything, but just kind of taking in the natural beauty of the snow clinging to the trees and all. And they claimed that there was a vocalization that came from the front, and later on they heard one coming from the back of them. The vocalization appeared in the front of them. Now it started getting closer and was like communicating to the one who was behind them. And also it scared them, so they got back in the car. And they said they were playing a disc that they went and got off in one of the computers. I'm sure it was one of the Sierra sounds, and I think it was almost like the monkey sound, the chattering sound I'm familiar with. You probably are too. They were playing that through their car radio speaker, and they actually said they got a response to that. And I said, well, did you record any of that? They said, well, we went back to the trunk of our car to get the video camera because that's where they could record it on that. But by the time they got around to doing that, it had stopped. So who's really say? I don't know. But I have tried both ways. I have tried, the chatter. I mean, I played it consistently over and over again, so I taped it at probably the loudest volume I can without distorting it, and I try to reproduce that in the field. And we had off and on throughout last summer, from June right in July and August, different times of the month there we had tried, because who's to say what time of the month is actually doing its migration? I believe it is a migrating animal, and by the time fall gets here, it seems to be well in the Whitehall area. So we have tried these different things, and we'd even had things thrown. At one point in time, one of our investigators had wandered off maybe 120 feet, 150 feet from where I was. But with listening devices, I knew approximately where he was, and I could hear a limb being snapped, like it sounded like a good-sized limb, probably 3 or 4 inches around. And, it sounds very similar to that, much louder than I could produce. And I thought, well, Jesus, is that Brian down there doing that? No, it's not, because I know exactly where he was. And when he came back up, he says, there's something down there that threw something at me. Well, we know ourselves how many there were in our encampment. There's only one away from us, and that was Brian. And we heard vocalizations earlier in the evening. We heard wood knocking, and it was in that same general direction where he was. And we all know that it takes something with a pair of hands, fingers, and an arm to pick, to grasp, and to throw. And this is a characteristic of most apes. And anyways, he came up, and he was very frightened. Brian's not a guy that frightens easy. So he came back up, and he stayed with us the rest of that evening. So I asked him again, I said, whereabouts exactly were you down there? Because I know that was coming to my left-hand side, that large snap of a limb. And he told me where he was, and that's just where I knew he was, because I could hear him moving down there when he's going down the trail. So he says, I never heard that limb snap, though, you talked about. But he said, I couldn't tell you if that was a small log, or a small rock. But he says it must have weighed several pounds, and it hit very close to where I was standing. So that's one of the things that happened. And this, again, we were playing the vocalizations in those areas. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You've always got some really good stories. I could listen to you all day.
Well, again, it goes with field research. That is another one of the things. People can sit behind their computer and copy, all the stories they want off in the computer.
Yeah.
But it takes that field work to get out there and find the answers. The last footprint that we found was, October 5th. It was a decent print. It was nearly 8 inches across the toes, 14 inches long, with a 4-inch heel. We didn't cast this when I photographed it. I just recently sent it on to the editor I just talked about there. His name is Don Ladd, and I wanted him to compare this with, some of the other photographs that's been sent to him, and I'm trying to locate some of the people that he had wrote about in his article, because most people, they don't want, to be identified, and so sometimes they use, alias names and so on, like this Adirondack Jack. He's not giving his full name, of course, his right name. So I want to get in touch with him and to see exactly where this happened up in the Black River area, so that we talked about earlier. So all these things is, you can do a certain amount of paperwork, but you got to get in the field to find anything.
Right. Yeah, you got to spend some time out there. And
yes, you have.
You've been doing this for quite a long time. I guess it's been what? How many years has it been now?
32 years.
32 years. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been out there a while, so I'm sure you've accumulated a lot of information over those years.
Well, we have, and one of the things you just asked me before we went on the air about the psychic I work with, and I know a lot of people would kind of snuff at that, but when things work, you stay with it. If it's not broken, you don't fix it. Well,
yeah.
This is one of the things that seems to be working. We're very successful every time she's with us. It seems like every time she's with us, we have something very interesting things, I should say, it happens, while we're out. So we did a study to an area must be by the locals. They got a name for it. They call it Spook's Corner. I've known about this spot now for probably close to 20 years, but never visited the spot until October 5th. And I photographed it in a series of still shots, because in that area, a witness some years before was coming down off of one of the mountain trails, and it was just before dark. And, of course, it's the time of year that, the leaves are all gone, the trees you can see up into the woods, probably 100 feet or more. And walking across one of the ridge lines there, this thing was standing upright, slightly stooped, and walking like a man, and he says this thing was non-human.
Right.
So, and other people reported things in that same area. Some people, again, won't hunt that area. It's things that happen there. So, it's like being back in one of the remote areas of Oregon, for example. Large trees have been uprooted by the wind or ground erosion. It's just a step back into time, you might say.
Right.
So it was a very interesting area to be in, and I had her working with me. Sue was working with me, and she was pointing out things of interest where she was getting really strong vibes. And I know I told you, or maybe I didn't tell you, excuse me, I think I mentioned it on Don Keating's show earlier this summer. She was working with me in Whitehall. And the young man has told me the story, but I didn't know exactly the spot at that time. And Sue was with me a week later, her and Brian Goslin. And she points out a spot where she had felt this thing, actually was seen by this young man. So he's with us, excuse me, he's with us the following week. And without him taking us to the spot, she leads him right to the spot where he had his sighting.
Wow.
Now, this is the boy I told you about was around a campfire with 3 of his friends, and something was moving around beside them in the woods.
Yep.
And he just wondered who the heck was out there. So he jumped on his four-wheeler, didn't turn the lights on, just fired it up, and started down this little small pathway. He owns the property. He knows it quite well. And as soon as he got to the top of this little knoll, he flapped on his lights, and right in front of him there, kind of in a dip, was a 7-foot-plus creature, slender and built, and started screaming at him and went off into the woods. He says it scared the Jesus out of me. So Sue didn't know any of this story, and she walked him right to the spot where it happened. She said, I had this feeling in this pit of my guts, this is where it happened. And all the time I'm watching him, I'm watching his body language, and he just kept shaking his head and more or less talking to himself. I don't believe this. I don't believe this. He was so impressed with her that he came to my house, and he says, I was never so impressed with anybody in my life until she came and done that.
Right.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story, and I think there's a little bit more interesting facts to that story, I believe.
Yeah, but probably some I can't get into. I'm starting to lose my voice on you now.
But that is interesting. I know ever since you told me that story, I'd been thinking about it. And
yeah, there's been 3 sightings in that piece of property over the years. Yeah, but the thing that intrigued me the most because that was in the spring when he had his sighting, and he's talking about the creature being slender, and so many people have said, no, it's not that big, heavy, muscular built like the Patterson film. It's slender. Now I asked, what time of year was it? And they were saying either spring or it'd be somewhere in midwinter. Mm-hmm. And either, it's lost that body weight, it hasn't got the food source or whatever. They talked about in the springtime where the hair loss, it was like a type of mange as this animal, like most animals start losing the winter fur during the springtime. I don't know, there's some things that we can look into, Right. Like one of the things I've been looking at, it started off as kind of a joke. I don't know if you knew Paul Cuddles or not. He was a Canadian that worked for the Canadian motion picture business.
Right.
And did you know him?
No, I did not, but I've heard the name.
Okay, well, anyways, Paul's a stamp collector, same as I am, and he had sent me some stamps, Canadian stamps, that depict, it was a block of 4. It depicted a Sasquatch in a squatting position, one of the giant squibs, a logo pogo, and a werewolf. Well, anyways, we joked about the squatting position of the Sasquatch. He's taking a dump, okay? We joked about that quite often, but over the period of time, I kept looking back to see how many stories I had accumulated within, say, 5 to 7 years of people reporting the creature being in a squatting position. I never thought about it, but I said, maybe it's not just squatting there to make itself small or out of sight when the witness is walking by. Maybe he's doing his business,
Right.
Maybe we should be looking at the location. I had the witness take us back to the location to examine that spot, see if there's any stool samples there. So that was just something that came from a joking around with Paul Cuddles.
Right.
So there's other things out there that we can do. I mean, there's so many areas that we can open up different cans of worms, you might say, and say, okay, let's try this and look at this one here.
Right.
So
that's shoot, I just opened up the switchboard. We got 2 callers.
Oh, okay.
I was sitting here dealing with the live chat trying to help some of the folks out in there that said that the show kept starting over, and I kind of neglected to look in here. Let me pull, let's see, caller from the 936 area code. You're on the air with Sasquatch Watch Radio and our guest, Bill Brann.
Can you hear me all right?
Sure can. Who we got?
Smiter.
Hey, Smiter, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Yourself?
Doing just fine, thank you. DB, say hello to Smiter.
How's it going, Smiter?
All right. How are you, DB?
Great.
I was going to ask your guest tonight, has the psychic that you've been using, has she ever gotten any impressions from these hairy folks when you're out there in the woods?
Well, she has taken some of the cast that we just casted, for example, and she'll say, Bill, I got a feeling this is the female that we're after, or at least made these tracks, and there's a young one with it. And she says, somewheres in this area, there's a heavy berry patch. Excuse me. Started to lose my voice here. Berry patch. And, of course, this time of year that we casted that print was in the springtime, and we know there's no berries at that particular time. So one of the researchers that works with us, he says, I know exactly where these berry bushes would be as she's talking about. It's about a half a mile from where we have casted this particular print. We have noticed over the period of time it seems to stay in one particular area for a very long period of time. Why? I don't have all the answers. But she picked up on that, and she picked up on a number of different things, a lot what it looked like. She said by pushing her hands inside of the print, sometimes she says I could actually feel where it stepped down. And I said, well, what direction is it going? Because I don't see another track. And she says, it looks like it was going northeast. And we would start off in a northeasterly projection, and we would actually pick up some more tracks after that. It's been in so many different instances where she would put us right back on trail. When we lose a track, she can usually put us right back on trail. And I was talking to Don Keating, I think this summer, I might mention to Bill, that is in 2006, in May of 2006. Sue and I were back in the woods quite a ways, and there was an old lean-to. We don't know who built it. It looks like it was built by, hunters. But it's, went to rack and ruin. So we're standing there, and she's got these dowsing rods out, and she's, Bill, I'm not picking up any energy in this area at all. I feel like there's something, it walked behind us. So we walked down a deer trail that was nearby, maybe 250 feet, and then we cut off to our left about 25 feet, and she walked right up to a track, just like that.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So her method works, and you've seen it repeatable many times then?
Oh, many times, yes.
Okay.
Many times.
So now we all need to get us a psychic.
Well,
yeah.
my next question is, have you ever interviewed anyone that has had a telepathic experience?
I'm not sure that I've had, but if they had, they haven't told me about it.
Okay. I was just curious about that because I've had a telepathic experience or two with hairy folks, and I know other people that have. Of course, I get ridiculed for that constantly.
Oh, yes.
But, when you hear a voice in your head, a female voice telling you to go down this particular trail because there's a surprise, and you argue with the voice, and it argues back, telling you to go down this trail, and you go around the trail, and sure enough, there's a surprise waiting for you. It's kind of hard to argue with yourself from that point on.
Well, have we ever really thought that maybe Smiter, maybe that's similar to a way it works with a psychic? So I don't know.
I can't explain it. It's just one of those things that it seems to work. I've known her for probably 17 years, somewhere in there, maybe 20 years. And one day I just decided, let's try doing this here. I know you come here, you've tried to feel the energy off in some of the casts I have. But I can see where her ability is increased from the time I first met her. She was approximately 29, 30 years old when I first met her. She's 47 now, and I can see where she has far more ability in this particular area. I suppose it's like anything. If you use it there, you actually start increasing your capability of doing it. So I just can't explain it, but it does work, and I will continue to do it as long as she wants to do it with me.
I sent you an email sometime back on your site wanting to speak with this woman via email or however.
It's one of the things she won't do. She wants no publicity, and she works very close with us. So that's pretty much the way it is. Did you email me? I didn't get it.
Okay, I'll go to your site and send you another email, seeing if I can get information with you. But
yeah, the web host is John Pearson.
Okay. Well,
okay.
The thing that's fascinating to me is the Italian scientists in 2005 that experimented with chimpanzees and empathy. And they discovered a set of neurons in the brain that neurologists had ignored or missed altogether, and they called them mirror neurons because as chimpanzees were watching another chimpanzee perform something, that exact same area of the brain was active. So in their mind, they were doing the same thing that the chimpanzee was performing the act on the floor. So if these mirror neurons exist within the human brain, I'm sure it exists within their brain too, like it does in all primates. And it's possible.
It's very possible.
It's possible for telepathy or other communications, empathy, to occur between these hairy folks in the woods and us. And I was just wondering
all true.
if she had any telepathic experiences.
Not me.
I certainly haven't. So
I haven't either. And it's not like I wouldn't try.
Well,
they're just not talking to me.
I'll say the same thing I've been saying for a while, and then I'll shut up and get off the phone. Like any primate, from the smallest ones with tails in the jungles all the way up to the largest ones being gorillas, the only way that you're going to be able to interact with them or discover them is to put yourself out there and let them get used to you. They're not going to come into the city and try to get you to get
No, they're not.
So you're just going to have to put yourself out there and let them get used to you, and that's the way it works with any primate.
Well, we thought using a woman too, would also have an advantage, and That might be when we're out there at night. I don't know, but she's with us a lot of times in the evening, and not every evening that we go out, but most evenings. So, but every time she's with us, it seems to be something that happens around us. So that's the plus side.
And going out there at night is fine, but I've had a lot of experiences during the day as well. So you don't have to go out there just at nighttime.
No, we mix it up. We go day and night. So things ain't always moving at the same time.
All right. Well, thanks for taking my call, Billy. And
You bet.
Right.
Nice talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And I believe Bill's going to know who this one is, too.
Henry May?
Good gosh, Bill. Hold on a minute. I don't know. Maybe you don't need her. I think you might.
I don't think Bill needs a psychic.
Yeah. I've been told I got a little bit.
How you doing, Bill?
How you doing, Henry? Pretty good.
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on the possibility of these creatures using the Adirondacks and maybe the other mountainous regions as a possible migration route.
I've been mapping it out for years. What I do, I have a color code I use. I use red for the sightings. I use yellow for the footprints, blue for vocalization, and green if anything was thrown on any of the reports. And starting from the Black Mountain Range, coming down to Memphis County, which is further north into Fort Ticonderoga. I use Fort Ticonderoga as a reference because a lot of people can relate to that from the history. It seems to follow that path coming down along the Lake Champlain, crosses across the Whitehall area into the Vermont area and up into the Chittenden area. There's been a lot of reports out of the Chittenden National Forest. For example, there was this past summer, I'm trying to think exactly when it was, but I think it was around about July, last part of July, where a woman was upstairs in her bedroom and she's making the bed. She happened to glance out the window, and this creature walked right by the window, and she's totally taken back. And I just heard about a report tonight. There were also in Vermont, in the Chittenden area, there where a woman was looking out her kitchen window into the field, and she could see one of these creatures just standing there. By the time she called her husband on the phone, cellular phone, it was gone. So, yeah, this area through there usually starts about fall, the sightings in Whitehall and up towards Vermont. But throughout the summer, it's spotty, at best. But it really starts peaking around about September, October, in the early part of the fall period there that you start getting sighting reports that those is going to report them anyways. And I'm sure there's dozens we don't get. And if we do get them, sometimes they're several years old, So. Yeah. So that was what you wanted to ask me. I feel that there's a lot of them. I don't know if it's coming down out of the Adirondacks across that particular mountain range, but I do feel that it's coming down, coming along maybe the north side of Lake George, making that crossover because there's a very small patch of ground between Lake George and Lake Champlain where it could come across and make its way down that way. And I see that's a pattern, but the reports we get out of the Adirondacks is not that often. I don't mean as daily or anything like that, but maybe 2 reports a year or something of that nature. So it takes a long time to get a pattern and the maps there, coming down on the deep part of the Adirondacks that way. But coming down out of Essex County, that would certainly be true to form, is it's following that for a very long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Now, I also want to ask one more question, and then I'll get off the line. Referring to the footprints, how many of them have you found in New York State or have heard of that have 3 toes? Whereas
I haven't found any in New York State with 3 toes. I mean, I know they're seen and found in Pennsylvania, but no, I never found a 3-toe track. Somebody asked me or wrote me actually. He was interested in 6 toes. I was in 6 toes. I never heard of a 6-toe track, But no, they're usually 5 toes, and usually 14 and a half inches long. There's a few exceptions that go 16 and 17, but they're the exception. And how many we found, I don't know, dozens, but I know this year alone, what I can say right offhand, has been 14 tracks found this year. We didn't cast every one. Some are better than others, of course, you know that, but 14 tracks is what we found this year.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, do you think the 3-toed tracks perhaps are legitimate, or do you think that there's some sort of perhaps not all the toes come down on the ground, or?
I suppose it could be all of the above, but I remember talking to Dr. Warren Cook, the late Dr. Warren Cook from Castleton College over there. We tossed this around quite a few times, and he says, it might be an interbreeding pool there where they interbred so often, so much that the gene has now affected that part of the reconstruction of the body. There's a reason why, or it might be out another whole species of the animal altogether. These are some of the things that he came up with and we were discussing, but it's hard to say. Like I said, I don't know of any, and I never found a 3-toed track here in New York State.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thank you very much.
We all know what
you
the
bet.
man says they are. They're alligators.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Bill, for answering my question.
You betcha.
You're doing well, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye.
All right, bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right, DB, before we go on here, do you have any questions from the chat?
We have not had a single question from chat.
Everybody's calling in to ask the questions, I guess.
That's right. You don't want to know what they're talking about in chat.
Yeah, I know. I get called all kinds of names, Bill.
Yeah.
Ron Schaffner just told me a while ago. I told him every time I get on a live show, my phone rings. That's what that music was you was hearing. And Ron says, "What do they call you, Billy?"
The Southern Gentleman. What else?
Yeah, I've always loved listening to you. Your stories. You've got so much information, and you've been out there and you've seen it, and it's just great to be able to get out there as much as you have and see what you've seen and get the evidence that you've gotten. It's just great.
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't without our group, the Northern Sasquatch Research Society. These people have really become my eyes, because you've probably heard, or you might have heard me say that I've lost almost all my eyesight.
Yeah.
Sometimes they actually had practically take me by the hand and lead me into some of these areas.
Right.
That's how bad it's become for me. But without this organization, I would not be able to do the field work that I used to do.
Yeah. Well, regardless, we appreciate it, Bill. You've brought us, some information, and we appreciate all your hard work you've done in the past 32 years.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
It's been great. Well, Bill, I tell you, this show rolls when we're having fun. We've only got about a minute left. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. I would hope you would accept an invitation to come back again sometime.
Very good. Thank you.
And DB, make sure you don't have anything before I announce what's going on next week.
I don't have a single thing.
Don't have a single thing. All right. Well, Bill, thank you so much. Appreciate it a whole lot.
Okay then, Bill. You take care.
All right. You too.
Yeah, great show.
Yep. Good night now.
Night.
Good night. Bye-bye. Oh.
Next week, folks, we will have a fellow by the name of Philip Spencer from Kentucky. He is the author of The Wild Man of Kentucky, The Mystery of Panther Rock. I've been getting some emails about this, and because of these emails, that's the reason why I went ahead and skipped for the show. So he will be on the show next Monday night. Philip Spencer from Kentucky, The Wild Man of Kentucky, The Mystery of Panther Rock. My understanding is he's got some interesting stories, and we'll hear what he's got to say. DB, do you got any closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are we've had another great show, and I'm glad that we're still on the air after it's been more than 2 months now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Like we started.
We're rolling right along.
That's right. So, folks, we owe it all to you. You all come every week. A lot of you come here every week, and we really appreciate it. So, folks, thank you so much for a wonderful show. DB, thank you for being a wonderful co-host. And we will see everybody next Monday. Goodbye.
Selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
As easy as pie?
Sure. All you have to do is enter your license plate or VIN.
As easy as a stroll in the park.
Okay, then just answer a few questions and you'll get a real offer in seconds.
As easy as singing.
Why not? Schedule a pickup or drop-off and Carvana will pay you that amount right on the spot.
As easy as playing guitar.
Actually, I find that kind of difficult. But selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
Can be.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get an instant offer today.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.